Welcome back to Reading with Nana, and hi to my special returning friends. We're starting the new year off right. Our story actually is a novel about a little girl named Heidi. Chapter 1, Going Up to Uncle. The little old town of Mayenfeld is charmingly situated. A footpath leads out of the town through green, well wooded stretches to the foot of the mountain heights, which look down imposingly upon the valley. As the footpath becomes more steep upon the Alp, the heath, with its short grass and pungent herbage, at once sends out its soft perfume to greet wayfaring travelers. One bright sunny morning in June, a tall, vigorous maiden of the mountain region climbed up the narrow path, leading a little girl by the hand. The youngster's cheeks were in such a glow that it showed even her sun-browned skin. In spite of the heat, the little one, who was scarcely 5 years old, was bundled up as if she had to brave a bitter frost. It would be difficult to make her out under all those clothes, for she wore two dresses, if not three, and around her shoulders a large red cotton shawl. With her feet encased in heavy hobnailed boots, this very hot and uncomfortable little one trudged and toiled up the mountain. The pair had been climbing for about an hour when they reached a hamlet halfway up the great mountain named the Alm. This hamlet was called Imdorfi, or the little village. It was the elder girl's town, and as they traveled through, she was greeted from nearly every house. People called to her from windows and doors, and from the roadside. But the little girl did not loiter on her way, and only came to a stop when she reached the end of the hamlet. There a few cottages lay scattered about, and from the furthest of these a voice called out to her through the open door, "Deda, please wait one moment. I'm coming with you if you're going to further up the mountain." When the young woman stood still to wait for the one who called to her, the child instantly let go of her hand and plopped down on the ground. "Are you tired?" Deda asked the child. "No, but I'm so hot," she replied. "We shall go up the mountain in an hour, if you take big steps and climb with all your might." The elder girl spoke encouragingly to her small companion. A stout, pleasant looking woman stepped out of the house and joined the two travelers. The child rose up and she began to wander around the old acquaintances as they stood and gossiped about their friends in the neighborhood and various persons of the hamlet. "Where are you taking the child, Detta?" asked the newcomer. "Is she the child your sister left when she died?" "Yes," Detta assured her. "I am taking her up to the uncle, and there she shall remain." "You can't really mean to take her there, Detta. You must have lost your senses to go to him. I'm sure the old man will show you the door. He won't even listen to what you say." "Why not? Since he is her grandfather, it is high time he should do something for the child. I have taken care of her until this summer, and now I have been offered a good housekeeping position. This child shall not hinder me from accepting it. I tell you that. It would not be so hard if the old man were like other mortals. But you know him yourself. How could he look after a child, especially such a little one? She'll never get along with him. I am sure of that. But tell me of your prospects." "I'm going to work at a splendid house in Frankfurt. Last summer, some people went off to the baths, and I took care of their rooms. As they got to like me, they wanted to put me in their employ at home, but I could not leave at that time. Now they have come back, and I am persuaded to go with them." "I am glad that I am not that child," exclaimed Barbara with a shudder. "Nobody knows anything about that old man's life up there. He doesn't speak to a living soul, and from the beginning to the end of the year he stays away from church. People move out of his way when he appears once every 12 months down here in the village. We all fear him as though he were a heathen, with those thick gray eyebrows and that huge untamed beard. When he wanders along the road with his twisted stick, we are all afraid to run into him alone. That is not my fault, said Data stubbornly. He won't do her any harm, and if he should, he will be responsible for that, not I. I wish I knew what weighs on that old man's conscience. Why are his eyes so fierce? And why does he live up there all alone? Nobody ever sees him, and we hear many strange things about him. Didn't your sister tell you anything, Detta? Of course she did, but I shall hold my tongue. The old man would make me pay for it if I told anybody. Of course she did. Barbara had long been anxious to know something about old Uncle and why he lived apart from everybody else. Nobody had a good word for him, and when people talked about him, they did not speak openly, but as always as though they were afraid. She didn't even know why they called him the Uncle. He could not possibly be the uncle of all the people in the village, but since everybody spoke of him so, she did the same. Barbara, who had only lived in the village since her marriage, was always very happy to obtain some little bits of information from her friend. Detta was born and bred in the hamlet, but since her mother's death, she had moved away to earn her livelihood. Barbara seized Detta's arm in a low, confidential tone and said, I wish you would tell me the truth about him, Detta. You know how people gossip. Tell me, what has happened to the old man to turn everybody against him so? Has he always hated his fellow creatures? I cannot tell you whether he always did, and that for a very good reason. He is 60 years old, and I am only 26. You can't expect me to give an account of his early youth, but if you'll promise to keep it to yourself and not to set all the people in Prodigan talking, I can tell you a good deal. My mother and he both came from Doshlik. How can you speak like that, Data? Replied Barbara in an offended tone. People do not gossip much in Prodigan, and I always keep things to myself, if I have to. You won't regret that you told me, I assure you. All right, but you must keep your word, Detta warned. Then she looked around to make sure the child was far enough away so as not to overhear their conversation. The little girl, however, was nowhere to be seen. While the two young women were talking, they had failed to notice her absence. Quite a while must have elapsed since the little girl had wandered away. Data looked about her, but no one was on the path, which, except for a few curves, was visible as far down as the village. There she is! Can't you see her over there? Exclaimed Barbara, pointing to a location a good distance from the path. She is climbing up the mountainside with the goat herd, Peter and his goats. I wonder why he is so late today. I must say, this suits us well enough. Let him look after the child while you tell me everything without being interrupted. It will be no problem for Peter to watch her, remarked Ada. She is bright for 5 years, and she is very observant. I have often noticed that about her, and I know that she will be useful for Uncle. He has nothing left in the whole wide world but his cottage and 2 goats. Did he ever have anything more than that? Asked Barbara. I should say so. He was heir to a large farm in Domschlik. He set out in life as a fine gentleman, but soon he lost everything to drink and play. His parents died with grief, and then he disappeared from these parts. After many years, he came back with a half-grown son. Tobias, that was his name, became a carpenter and turned out to be a quiet, steady fellow. Many strange rumors went around about his uncle, and I think that's why he left. We did acknowledge a relationship. My mother's grandmother was his cousin. We called him Uncle, And because we are related on my father's side to nearly all the people in the hamlet, they also called him Uncle. But he was named Uncle when he moved up to the But whatever happened to Tobias? Asked Barbara eagerly. Just wait. How can I tell you everything at once? Exclaimed Detta. That is where our story will stop. Thank you for listening. Click like or subscribe. Until next time, we will continue with the story of Heidi and Uncle.